Daniel Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 6 matchup between the Texas A&M Aggies and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Huge matchup for both these teams coming up here in Week 6. You got Texas A&M, who has had a roller coaster of a season so far. This team is 3-2 heading into this matchup and coming off of a disappointing loss to Mississippi State. But they got a chance for redemption in this matchup, going on the road, taking on an Alabama team that is ranked as the top team in the country. Should make for a good one. We'll go over a full game preview and prediction on this match here today, starting with their team trends. Texas A&M lost to Mississippi State 24-42 in their Week 5 matchup, so obviously a disappointing loss. Considering Texas A&M, they're coming off of 2 straight ranked wins. They beat Miami back in Week 3, which, the Hurricanes were ranked as the 13th team in the country at that time. And then they beat a top 10 team in Arkansas the next week, 23-21. So, Texas A&M going on the road to Mississippi State. Obviously, the Bulldogs are a good football team, but that was a disappointing loss there for Texas A&M. And once again, it's been a roller coaster of a season so far for this team. They lost to App State back in Week 2, which was obviously a stunning upset, a very disappointing loss there. And quite honestly, the Aggies had no business losing to App State, even though App State is one of the best teams in the group of 5. But nonetheless, Texas A&M is 3-2 heading into this matchup, taking on Alabama, who is coming off of a great win against Arkansas, 49-26. Was the final score in that one. Arkansas was ranked 20th heading into that matchup as well. So Crimson Tide 5-0 and ranked to number 1. And it's an interesting matchup. We remember what happened last year. Texas A&M was coming off of a disappointing loss heading into the Alabama game, and we know how that ended up. Texas A&M ended up beating Alabama in College Station. And so this game is in Tuscaloosa, so it's in a different location. But obviously Texas A&M last year, coming off of a brutal loss, ended up coming back the next week and beating Alabama, so it's something to keep in mind. Games be on Saturday, October 8th in Tuscaloosa. Kickoff is 8 p.m. Eastern. Spreads going Alabama by 24. So Crimson Tide are favored by a good margin in this game, and your over-under is 52. FPI is Alabama 96.2%. Your series history, Alabama leads at 11-3. But once again, Texas A&M did win last year against Alabama, and what was a pretty stunning upset once again. No one really expected it, especially after Texas A&M was coming off of a pretty disappointing loss. But Alabama's won 4 of the past 5, and so in general, Alabama has been more successful against Texas A&M in overall history. Stat comparison for this one: Texas A&M is 105th in points per game. This is an offense that just hasn't been very good this season. That's been the main issue for the Aggies is their offense, but defensively they've been pretty strong for the most part. They're 32nd in points allowed, and then for yards allowed, 42nd in passing, 98th in rushing. But once again, in offense, it's been kind of a different story, being 114th in passer to game, which is, this is out of 131 FBS teams. So the Aggies are in the hundreds in 2 different categories and almost in rush defense. But passing game has been kind of a struggle for this team, but the rushing offense hasn't been terrible for this team, being 79th in rush yards a game. As for Alabama, they are excellent in every single category. 3rd in points per game, 3rd in points allowed, 35th in passers a game, 6th in rush yards a game, and for yards allowed, 6th in passing, 9th in rushing. So, Alabama is all around just an outstanding team. Passing yards a game, they got 273, which is at 35th, but that is still a really good number. And then 6th in rush yards a game. So this is a team that's been really good. Bryce Young, when he got him, who's a great rusher, and then of course Jahmyr Gibbs, who's been great so far this season. It's not too surprising, but for Texas A&M, Max Johnson has been the primary quarterback the past couple of weeks, and he's had some success. And of course, it's been kind of a questionable situation with Haynes King and of course Max Johnson, but I do think Max Johnson is the better quarterback between the two. But we'll see how that ages, as Texas A&M is going to have. This is far and away the best team that they've played so far this season, coming up here in Alabama. Your recent matchups: Texas A&M lost to Mississippi State 24-42. Once again, you can see the roller coaster here. They beat Arkansas, beat Miami. Both games were decently close, but the Miami game, they were extremely strong on defense, only allowing 9 points. Lost to App State 14-17, only scored 14 points against App State. And of course, they beat Sam Houston State in Week 1, 31-0. And as for Alabama, 49-26, beat Arkansas. They beat Vanderbilt 55-3, beat Louisiana Monroe 63-7, beat Texas on the road 20-19, which, that win is now a few weeks back, so, and it wasn't a terribly convincing win. Texas really hung around in that game and almost knocked off the Crimson Tide, which was extremely surprising, but still, once again, Alabama got the win. So That's what truly matters in the end. But since then, they've only gotten better. And, of course, they beat Utah State back in week 1, 55-0. Your key points for this one, Texas A&M 3-2. They've played very well against good teams. That is something to mention as well, is that if you look at their 2 losses, they were to unranked teams, App State and Mississippi State, which I think Mississippi State is a far better team than App State, and that's honestly pretty obvious. Mississippi State, I think, is actually a pretty good football team, and the way that they played against Texas A&M, I think that just proves it. But against good opponents, I mean, they've played 2 teams in the top 15, Arkansas and Miami. Both teams are obviously now out of the top 20, and honestly, I don't even think Arkansas is ranked this week, and I know Miami is not. So, but Texas A&M either way has played good against ranked opponents. That's something to keep in mind here. This is a team that plays really well against good teams. Offensively, they've been very inconsistent, but defensively, they've shown plenty of potential. I mean, once again, they've had some strong defensive performances, and they're definitely going to need one here going up against a really good Alabama team on offense. And I will say this as well, forcing turnovers will be crucial for Texas A&M here. I mean, I don't know who's going to be quarterback for Alabama in this matchup. It looks like Bryce Young got injured in the matchup in week 5 against Arkansas. So we'll see how he progresses over the course of the week. That is something to keep an eye on, especially if you're into betting for this matchup, as the spread is 24 points towards Alabama. And I probably wouldn't bet on Alabama to cover the spread, especially if Bryce Young isn't starting. But it doesn't sound like a serious injury. It's a shoulder injury, according to Nick Saban, and it's not anything too serious. So hopefully he is back for this matchup for the Crimson Tide. But yeah, all around, Alabama's looked like the best team in the nation. This is the time to prove that they are the top team in the nation, as the top 3 teams right now between Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama are quite honestly, I mean, they're far and away the best teams in the country. It's just a matter of which one is the best out of those 3. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Texas A&M and Alabama coming up here in week 6 of action. And in this game, I'm going to go Alabama. 35-17 is my predicted final score, and I'm very comfortable picking Alabama in this game. I feel like Texas A&M, they got a chance to maybe keep it close, make it competitive. But, I mean, I'd be stunned, quite honestly, if Alabama lost this game. I mean, last year, it was in College Station. It was a night kickoff, so Texas A&M had the home field advantage. But they don't have that for this game. Alabama's got the home field, and especially the way that Alabama's been playing since their somewhat disappointing win over Texas. I mean, they were dominant against Arkansas, and obviously the 2 games before that they were as well. So Alabama's playing extremely well right now. They could be, or I'd probably say, the best team in the country as of right now. And so for Alabama, I just don't see them losing this game. I'm going to say 35-17 here. I'm going to say 70% towards Alabama. Over-under's 52 here. I'll take the over for this one. I'm currently projecting a push, actually, with 52 total points with a 35-17 final score. But if you're going to bet the over-under, I would take the over for this matchup here. I mean, if you're going to pick Texas A&M to win, you got to take the under, because I can't imagine Texas A&M is going to score more than 30 points in this game. So especially with their offense. So I would definitely take the under if you think Texas A&M is going to win. But if you're going to take Alabama, might as well just take the over for this one, especially considering Alabama is a strong team on offense. But once again, it's going to depend on Bryce Young as well. You can't forget about him. If he plays in this game, more than likely, or there's a better chance that Crimson Tide do also cover the spread. But in this situation, I'll take Texas A&M to cover the spread. But that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.